The issue I'm running into now is it seems like my reach on my channel is just completely dwindled. And so this whole series is brute forcing it out of that.
The question becomes, have the limits of what creators can do on YouTube, are we hitting our heads on the ceiling of that?
TikTok is just going to destroy the world, I think. Just people's ability to consume content. Trends are moving so fast. I don't see the longevity behind that.
It seems today to be pretty much not feasible to be a TikTok creator as like a full-time job. So if there's no money and there's no audience building, all that's left is fame chase.
With this series, I really wanted to work in just an aspect where I actually have to be outside and working on something, because that's the most rewarding thing is, building something with your own hands and just not staring at a screen all day.
Hey, welcome to The Create Unknown, the home of Make Something Mean Something. It is TCU's Day, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. We are here live on Discord every single week. We have a return guest tonight, and by we, I mean the royal we, because Matthew Tabor is off tonight. So you're stuck with me, Kevin Lieber. But luckily, not just me, because when you go to rustycage.tv, you see a few things. Requiem of the Crazies, the multi-volume comics that both Matt and I were excited to get. They came with a matchbook that said, "These matches burn books." But Rusty is an underappreciated, multidisciplinary academic and one of the great thinkers of our time. His website reveals that he's an astute social psychologist who artfully exposes the fine line between stalking and persecutory delusion through music, with Gang Stalking being his latest of several albums. He's made strides in evolutionary biology by tracking the relationship between canine domestication and descendants of the Caucasian region. And the resulting axiom can be distilled into a 4-word phrase. But he's also an engineer that would have fascinated the entire line of Caesars and Robespierre, who is in the midst of constructing a functioning guillotine that's the source of his latest conflict with YouTube. You can see detailed schematics on his site, with the full build displayed on a 1/50th scale and its components at 1/20. So, Rusty Cage, the first question is, and it's the most obvious question, who's first on the chopping block?
Oh, that's a good question. So I really have to always, dance around this. As you mentioned, I am in conflict with YouTube for a lot of reasons, and mainly a lot of my content has, edgier, dark themes related to death. So with this, making a fully functioning guillotine, I can't let YouTube know that this is for human use, and I don't think I will use it on a human. However, I want to do something special with it. I want it to get as close to like simulating what people actually want to see as I possibly can without crossing the line. The first thing on the chopping block will probably be something soft, like a watermelon.
just channel Gallagher.
Yeah, right. No, that's what everyone says. Like they're all like, "Oh, are you going to cut a watermelon with him?" Like, I guess I have to since everyone's asking, but. But also a lot of comments, people saying they'll be disappointed if I don't actually use it to cut a human's head off. So I don't know how far I have to go to please the audience, while maintaining that tightrope with the algorithm and YouTube's terms of service.
Yeah, it is a tightrope, and I do want to get into that more with you because it was one of the first things I've been. I see all your tweets, and they don't go over my head. So I do want to talk more about that. But first, let's talk more about simulated decapitation, and we'll just get this demonetized like right out of the gate. But
Sure.
Jake from Vsauce 3 has done a lot of work with those ballistics dummies,
right?
And I mean, that's the point of those things, is that you can use them to simulate all sorts of sort of horrific injuries, basically, and he would obviously use them for things like a T-Rex biting you to see what would happen, the things that were related to like a movie or a video game or something. But I think he worked directly with the company that makes those. I don't really know exactly how he got those or how much money they cost, but I'm sure they're probably not cheap.
Yeah, that is something I didn't really actually think to look into, actual ballistic dummies. But I mean, at this point, I've spent so much money on this project. It might be worth it to look into spending a little extra to get something that's, actually real to a human, and maybe if I can get it full of blood. Now, does he run into any trouble with like those getting strikes for violent content or anything like that?
He had in the past when he titled things a certain way.
Okay.
And perhaps if he had like blood spatter in a thumbnail, things would get demonetized. But
That's so weird.
Eventually he just started titling things like, "Could you survive Home Alone? Could you survive A Quiet Place?" Whatever it was. And those I don't think ever got demonetized. So it's hard to say how much sort of smoke and mirrors you can pull in order to prevent, to dance around that. But I don't know. With an actual guillotine, it seems like it might figure it out at some point.
And I don't know if it's the word guillotine. I mean, I had that in the title of my last video, and I was talking with a few people, and they suggested that that's probably why. Basically, the issue I'm running into now is it seems like my reach on my channel is just completely like dwindled. And so this whole series is kind of an exaggerated way of brute forcing it out of that. And I'm so dumb because I think that building a guillotine is going to somehow please the algorithm. So what I think I'm going to try to do on this next one is reframe this whole project as a 18-foot lemonade stand. So...
Okay.
So this is just a lemon chopping device, and maybe I'll call it like the safest lemonade stand, how to survive the safest lemonade stand or something like that.
The lemons are so small though. Why lemons? Because a lemonade stand is like a known thing as opposed to a watermelon stand.
A lot of people were also asking, do you need a permit for a guillotine? And I was looking it up, and I can't find anything that says I need a permit to build a guillotine. But I know I would need a permit to operate a lemonade stand, so that's kind of weird in itself. But, I mean, it's possible once I have this built, I could start a whole new career of just selling guillotine lemonade, and I can finally move off of YouTube and into the beverage industry.
Well, yeah, I think that, I don't know. I've never actually looked up the permit requirements for lemonade stand, but I got to imagine it just has something to do with the transactional element. So like if you were selling like step right up to get your head chopped off to buy a ticket, that you probably would need a permit for that because it's like you're doing business.
Right.
But just building the thing in your backyard. Well, yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question because depending on where you live, obviously you need permits just to build like a shed a certain size. So
yeah. And so this right now where I have it, it's the pictures I have most updated are on my Twitter or on my Instagram. But I have essentially an 8-foot tall deck that's 10 foot by 10 foot, and I don't think you need a permit for that where I'm at in Florida. Also, if I just call this an art piece or a set prop, that should be able to get around any sort of requirements.
Oh, yeah, it's
I
like.
would think.
Did you ever see the episode of Nathan For You where they made like dumb Starbucks?
No.
Oh man. So if anyone's never seen Nathan For You, the premise is it's a comedy version of like a Kitchen Nightmares type show where the host goes into different businesses that, perhaps are failing and will give them suggestions on how to improve their business. And they're always completely hilarious, ridiculous, absurdist. ideas. So he went into a coffee shop and suggested that this guy change the name of his coffee shop to Dumb Starbucks and just write dumb like really small, and everything else looks like it's a Starbucks, but
That's brilliant.
this is Dumb Starbucks. And eventually what they did is almost exactly what you said was, in order to get away with it, they essentially tried to categorize it as an art piece, as like an art installation, as like people thought it was literally a Banksy art project. But they did get shut down. Eventually the Starbucks lawyers, showed up and they did close it down. But it is funny how that's like calling something an art project creates that gray area potentially.
Yeah, and I don't really know how solid that gray area is. Like if, people say for some reason, some code inspector or whatever goes into my backyard and they're like, what the fuck is this giant guillotine? And I'm like, no, it's just an art piece. It's a prop for this video series I'm doing. They might still say, well, you can't have this. But I don't really see why not. It's just a bunch of lumber. Until if I detach the blade, then it's just like a wooden mechanical, doesn't do anything. It becomes useless at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like a wooden sculpture.
Right. So the main problem right now is I really want to just build this thing, but I'm tying its construction into the video series. Like I have a lot of cinematic elements that are going on in each video that are based around certain stages of the guillotine's construction. So while I probably could have already had this built in about 2 weeks, it's like I have to put it on pause until I finish editing the second video, and then I have to film some scenes and then start on the third one. And it's a pain in the ass. I didn't realize how annoying it was having to film yourself when you're trying to build something and actually maneuver large pieces of lumber around. And I'm doing it by myself, which is probably not safe in any construction project.
No, but it does always, we have talked to actually kind of like a lot of the engineer-ish YouTubers like Michael Reeves, and it always they always take forever to make those videos. I think simply because of exactly what you're saying. It's like you do a little bit of it, you film that, then you have to go edit it to see what it looks like, and then you think of another idea and you change that, and it's just this like totally like really laborious way of making videos, but the end product is so good that, those videos do really well. I loved your video. I really loved that, or the first one, obviously, that I've seen that has been out so far. How you incorporated a song into it, I thought was great. There's just a lot going on that really showcases your talent. So I thought it was really awesome.
I with this one, it's like, again, I feel like I'm always talking too much about my frustrations with YouTube and just my personal confusion about, not really understanding how to get the engagement that I want, or how to get videos that are pushed to more people. So I really just wanted to do this project where I could do everything that I wanted to do. I can have the cinematic elements and kind of more theatrical portions. I can just rant about random stuff that pisses me off about the world or whatever. I can build a guillotine, which is very fun. It's cool to be out of my house and actually working outside and doing physical labor, and then also incorporate music. But on top of that, I'm realizing it's going to take a lot of work to figure out how to format the videos so it's not so, like, if one person doesn't like one portion of the video, then they're clicking off of it. So I have to really try to mesh them all together a little bit more fluently so everyone will not stop watching at any certain point. When I look at like the viewer attention or the retention, or seeing where in the videos, people stop watching, it was like right at the song, there was a good portion that just dropped off. So people who were interested in the beginning of the video didn't really want to see me perform a 2-minute song. So now I have to maybe put the song in the background while I'm still working. I'm not sure.
Oh, it's, yeah. They didn't come back. It wasn't like a dip and then a spike.
Yeah, they came back a little bit, but I guess it doesn't really matter. The main portion of the video was already over. All this is still kind of confusing to me somehow. I've been on YouTube for like 12 years and I do not have a full grasp of it.
Well, this is exactly why I wanted to have you on, because you are clearly going through something like I've, witnessed from afar just through sort of Twitter and, YouTube to some extent, but mostly through Twitter and you talking about this process, but also me just like seeing what you're doing and thinking about what you're doing, as being sort of like this is Rusty's version of like a Mr. Beast idea where
right, exactly.
It's a limit idea where you're like, this is like such a wild idea that people have to check it out because they need to see this thing. So this is a topic that I'm super, super interested in and super interested in talking to you about is the MrBeastification of YouTube. Like this is something that we haven't really touched on. I mean, we did a podcast maybe a year or two ago, sort of about this, but it wasn't very robust. And I don't think we scratched the surface on the topic. So I want to hear your thoughts on it. But basically, the question becomes, have the limits of what creators can do on YouTube, and Mr. Beast sort of being the shining example of that, just making outrageous content like recreating Squid Game or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or whatever, just doing crazy things. Has that become like, are we hitting our heads on the ceiling of that? And like, what happens from here is really like it's a big question. It's a question that doesn't have an answer, but it's a question I'm super interested in because YouTube has not been around for very long. There's an evolution of all creative media, music, movies, whatever. And I think we're at a really interesting part in the timeline of YouTube's progress in which I did a thing just recently, put out a video where he put a gun on a robot dog.
Okay,
you know what
I
I'm
didn't see that
saying?
one.
He put a gun on a robot dog. The video before that, he did a video that literally Tabor and I wanted to do like 3 years ago, where we wanted to see how many t-shirts you could wear before the t-shirt would stop a bullet. Okay. There are only so many like murderous robot dog ideas. There are only so many I'm going to recreate Charlie and the Chocolate Factory ideas. So it's like, at what point does the audience get sort of bored and desensitized to this like shocking stuff? Yeah. And if that's the case, like, where do we go from here?
Right. So it seems like definitely this has happened in the past 2 years or something like that, where you have to step your game up so much in order to even get people's attention. And the audience expects everyone to have the capability of doing these incredible things. And, having a whole team of producers and cameramen and like a huge budget to perform all this. Granted, it makes a lot of money, but yeah, I think people are going to get, they're not going to care. Oh, you survived 24 days in the desert or something like that. They're going to see that so often and kind of catch on to the gimmick aspects of it. People are going to have to really do crazy, outrageous things. And then once everyone's doing that in order to compete with each other and get the audience's attention, that's going to be the conclusion of entertainment, I guess. It's going to have to shift into something incredibly weird or revert back to simplicity. Because it's like this with the Mr. Beast style stuff and the I Did a Thing style stuff, where you have to, build these crazy contraptions or perform these weird stunts. But then there's also the commentary community, where I think that's kind of going to reach a limit too, where no one even cares anymore. There's 1,000 videos about Ethan Klein out there every time he does anything. And surely people aren't watching every single one of them, or maybe they are. But eventually it's going to be like, who cares anymore? I don't know. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. I'm not sure if maybe I'm just aging out of the internet. Like, I'm not understanding what people are interested in anymore. But I mean, for me, this is like the biggest thing I've ever done in perspective to Mr. Beast. It's not even close to as crazy as something he would do.
Yeah. So that leaves me confused as to what what happens next, because it's not, Mr. Beast is the easy example to point to, but there are a lot of people doing this that are spending a lot of money. There are these Ah, man, I'm so out of the loop with these types of channels that I can't even name a single one, which is so bad. I should have come prepared for this to at least name one. Maybe somebody in the chat could help me. But there are these like, gosh, I don't even know what they're called, but they're like team channels where there are like 8 people on this one channel. And maybe they all have their own like solo channels too, but they come together like the Avengers almost on like one mega channel where they do these insane challenges that get like 20 million views. And it's because kind of similarly to what Hollywood did with the Avengers movies, where it's like, hey, why don't we get like 12 A-list celebrities and just put them all together in one thing or like one series of things so that we can, round
mass
up.
market it.
Yeah, round up Scarlett Johansson fans and Robert Downey Jr. fans and, whatever. It's like similar idea where it's like, okay, well, let's just round up like fans of these 8 different dudes who are all really popular influencers, create one mega channel that everyone from those like splintered fan bases come together to watch. And a lot of people do. Like I said, you go to these channels and they'll have like 23 million views. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah. And how do you compete with that is the question. I mean, you really have to step your game up. And another thing I'm wondering about could possibly happen is as time goes on, everyone's made the same video.
Right.
Like all knowledge has been explored. All, lore has 20 videos made about it. I was looking up some stuff that I'd made maybe 5 years ago. The meaning, the origin of the number 666 in the Bible. And I was just curious to see what other new stuff came out. And there's a ton of videos out now. You look that up and it's like, how do you choose which one you want to watch? They're all 20 minutes long. They're all probably going over the exact same points. And so then that presents YouTube with a problem. If once everything's been covered and there's still creators looking for things to cover, then no one has a shot. Like YouTube's going to have to suppress the older videos and allow for the newer ones to show up, which they're probably doing. And it makes sense just so it's kind of refreshing the results for a newer audience. But like all right, I'm building a guillotine. I'm not the first person on YouTube to build a guillotine. There's another channel. They had like a kind of a team of engineers building like a metal guillotine in a shop. The only thing I wanted to do different was do it myself and, not have it like it's a big fun warehouse production, kind of add more of my own artistic thing to it. But I mean, there's going to be a ton of people that are building guillotines. So it's like once 10 more people do it, this is not going to be impressive to anyone. It's just going to be like a run of the mill thing. Like, oh yeah, this person built a guillotine. A ton of people on TikTok are doing it. I don't know if this has already been happening or if everyone just kind of came to the same, hive mind conclusion that we all need to start building guillotines. And what would be spawning that, I couldn't even begin to say.
I think that's a different podcast. But that's sort of what I was trying to get at. You articulated, differently, and I think clearer than I did, is that, yeah, it does seem like at some point, like we're going to hit the limit of these things. And I don't know. I think the cracks in the surface are already there. That, we are getting there. I could say just from my personal experience on Vsauce 2, for about 3 years or so, I made a whole lot of paradox videos. Because when I started doing that, specifically like veridical and falsitical paradoxes, which are, math based. You can prove them, or you prove that they're true, or you can prove that they're false, using math. Right. That stuff, didn't really exist on YouTube. So when it came out, it was new and people were really excited about it because I was, digging up stuff from old recreational mathematics journals or whatever and turning it into like an entertaining YouTube video.
Right.
There's a finite supply of those things. There's not an infinite number of those like really interesting falsitical or veridical paradoxes. that you can make a video on. So I stopped making videos on those. And it's because there kind of weren't any more to do. Like I did them all. There were like a few ones that I didn't do, but I couldn't really figure out how to make into a good video. So I never made those, and that's fine. Maybe somebody, more creative than I am or with a better imagination for that material can bring it to life in a way that I couldn't figure out how to, and it'll be fresh. But for the most part, like I did it. I ran through the line of those paradoxes. I made those videos. And from here on out, if anybody makes them on the same topic, mine will already be there. And if the next person after them makes another one, there will be two that are already there. And you can, always put your own spin on it, put your own personality into it, and that's fine. But, and here's like another sort of new topic. At the end of the day, the title and the thumbnail are what matter. And I think more and more on YouTube, the title and the thumbnail matter because subscribers matter so much less. The way that the algorithm works is that the algorithm, like YouTube doesn't care about subscriptions or subscribers. They care about like, what have you been watching recently? I'm going to show you more of that so you stay on YouTube.
Yeah.
And to get you to click on things, what do you need? Like a crazy title and thumbnail. So I don't know if like how much the personality element of it, aside from building like a hardcore small fan base,
you have to have a
will continue to matter. Like I think I don't know, sorry to cut you off, but like it's mattering less and less to me from what I'm seeing on YouTube.
I mean, I hate the system where subscribers don't really matter. How did that even happen? When did that happen? Is it just because they kind of direct you to their homepage rather than your subscription page? Like maybe I'm just a boomer in this aspect. When I go to YouTube, I go to my subscription page and I look at all the people I subscribe to, not to see what YouTube's recommending to me. So it's weird, like when, subscribers will say, oh, I haven't seen any of your videos popping up. It's probably just because they're not being recommended to them. And I mean, going along with what you're saying about like the thumbnail and the title, how many different ways can you make a variation of a certain, mathematical paradox that's going to keep people's attention? Because anyone else making a new video, they're probably, instead of what you're doing, like going back and reading the core literature, they're just going to watch your video and then reword some stuff probably. And so then
no, that's my point exactly. What you're saying is how many ways can you reword the thing to make it like the perfect amount of clickable? Again, there's like a finite amount of ways to do that. So once those are all done, like I know sounds like such a weird sort of cynical way of looking at things, but I really believe that this is something we should be talking about. It's like once everybody has sort of made the best clickbait version of every idea, now what? Yeah,
either it's going to implode or it's going to get so radically weird that it's going to be unrecognizable. Because this is happening so quick. And now there's, anyone can be a creator. Cell phones are so good and audio and video quality, and everyone's consuming so much content. Like TikTok is just going to destroy the world, I think. Just people's ability to consume content because you can't keep up. You have to instead of, catching their attention in the first 15 to 30 seconds, you have to capture their attention in a split second. If they see something that doesn't look appealing, they're already scrolling to the next thing. So you almost have to be yelling at them right off the bat. And there's, just millions and millions of new creators coming in and making all this content. And you have to create so much to constantly be in people's faces to remind them that you exist. And so that, they'll watch more of your stuff. But with TikTok, especially, it's happening so fast that trends are moving so fast. And I can't see that, I don't see the longevity behind that. It seems like people are going to be burnt out, or it's going to be impossible to create anything new that's better than, like, it's going to reach a limit. I guess that's what we're talking about, is what is that limit? Either everyone gets really, really rich and everyone's doing extreme things and, hood pranks get crazier and people are like murdering each other for clicks. But like, everyone's skydive. No one cares. If I went skydiving and I filmed a video, now no one would care. But maybe 10 years ago, that would have been a cool thing to see, like, oh, this person I follow, watch them skydive, but they've seen everyone skydive and it's all the same. I don't know. I mean, it's frustrating, and it's definitely like, it makes it harder to see. Like, I don't know, even for myself, it's like I want to continue doing YouTube, but I don't really know what I can do. What do I want to keep doing? I don't want to talk about, drama, even though that's probably always going to sell. But creating new things is becoming more and more difficult. You just have to find that niche. This has always been my problem because I don't really have a niche. So there's not really like a set type of thing of content that I want to continuously make and be the master of. I think that's probably a lot of the issues, causing a lot of the issues that I'm facing with the algorithm, is because YouTube doesn't really know how to categorize my channel. Am I making comic books? Am I making music videos? Or am I building a guillotine? And so that doesn't really, like, who do they show my videos to? Who's watched content like that? Because it doesn't even know what my content is. I kind of went on a rant there.
I don't know what you've been sipping, but you've got it all wrong. It's time to commit to the leaf. We've embraced the smoothness and surprising pick-me-up that tea provides. I literally drink it all day long, nearly a gallon a day, and it powers me through research, script writing, and forums on websites that I refuse to name here. But we don't drink normie NPC tea. We drink cultured and refined anime tea from the Dragon's Treasure. Kevin still likes the gunpowder green called Space Cowboy, and I've sampled nearly 40 Dragon's Treasure teas at this point. Lately I've been slamming black teas like Kentucky Bourbon and Liquefied Berserk Despair. Scottish Breakfast is deep and peaty, and I smooth it over with Sebastian's Morning Earl Grey, which has the best vanilla cream taste I think I've ever had in a cup. Give me a pot of that with a hot meatball sub from Sal's Pizza and Brooks Barbecue Chicken to wash down my last meal on death row. I highly recommend the sampler packs. You'll want to try everything just like I did. I literally have not had one tea that I wouldn't be happy to reorder. The Dragon's Wings membership fuels new tea experimentation, and the Tea of the Month Club provides a regularly scheduled surprise. And when you order from the Dragon's Treasure using code CREATE, you'll get 10% off your order. That's 10% off using the code CREATE at thedragonstreasure.com. The link's in the description.
No, I think it's important. I know that, we had Nathan Barnett on the show a while back, and he expressed the same sort of ideas. Like, he would do all sorts of different characters, all sorts of different skits. He would dance to music videos, and he thought the same thing. He's like, I like doing all of these different things. I like doing sort of like man on the street sort of comedy, where you go out and do goofy stuff like in front of strangers. He liked doing that. He liked doing short films. He liked doing his dance videos, but it's all so disparate that he said it was really hard to build an audience for it. And he actually found it much easier to build the dad audience, because the dad video was a new channel. It did one thing, and it did one thing only. And like, people became fans of that one thing. So, I mean, I found this recently just with thumbnail creation. So in the past, I would always try to just, I don't know why I said that like Christopher Walken. In the past, I would just try to make the best thumbnail.
Right.
And I got messages from people that were like, I didn't think this was your video. Like, I saw this thumbnail and it didn't look like one of your videos, so I didn't watch it. And it just slapped me in the face, this idea like, oh, like there's just so much content now, and things are so compartmentalized that even your thumbnails, and this is going to sound like old news because it is to some extent, it is sort of like a best practice from like 2016. But even still, I feel like today in 2022, having a thumbnail that is a style that when people see it, they say, oh, it's Kevin's new video, or, oh, it's Rusty's new video. And they know that without even thinking those words. It's just like a subconscious, ooh, there's a new Vsauce 2. I think that that's important to an extent that it wasn't like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I didn't really even think about this until pretty recently, but I'm with you. I just wanted to make a good thumbnail that was aesthetically pleasing to me, and I would think, from a graphic design standpoint is sound. And that doesn't always require me to have my face really big in the thumbnail and with like a giant word saying exactly what it is. But I was talking to Nerd City about that, just how much it seems gross to have your face in the thumbnail for a lot of things when it doesn't require it. But I'm forcing myself to try to do that. I'm trying to figure out a new thumbnail method so to do exactly what you're saying. People know that it's my video. And even then, I was trying to jokingly copy Mr. Beast's thumbnails. I thought it'd be funny, like I'm satirizing it. But people were saying there's a limit to how much you can clickbait someone before they're so disgusted they don't even want to play along with the joke. Like I had originally had the thumbnail for this first guillotine video, super Mr. Beast style, mouth agape, eyes super wide with pointing at the thing that I'm building with giant words or whatever. And people said they didn't want to click on it because of how clickbaity it was. It's like, all right, I got to tone back the clickbait and find what my audience, I don't know. I have to rediscover thumbnails. I feel like I'm just losing it altogether. I'm not sure if I'm being gaslit or if I'm just not keeping up with the times very well. It's hard to say.
No, it is hard to say because I have the same concerns. But I will, piggyback on what you just said because I went through a similar thing as well where, there are certain audiences, and I think your audience is this way, and I know that the Vsauce 2 audience is this way, is they hate those types of videos.
Right.
They hate those, like, obviously, like, gorgeously photoshopped, like, very ostentatious and over-the-top and wacky clickbait thumbnails. They hate them. And just because, you see them work extremely well for other creators doesn't mean that your audience likes it. So I found that out the hard way, and I had to learn the lesson like 3 times over because I've tried it. I tried it a few times before I was like, all right, I get it. Like the people who watch Vsauce 2, like seriously do not like these types of YouTube videos. They seriously do not.
Right.
And just because they work well around YouTube does not mean they will work well within, the confines of the Vsauce 2 viewer. Like the type of person who will watch a Vsauce 2 video, I think there's not a lot of crossover between them and the types of videos with the thumbnails that we're talking about. I think they're completely different audiences. So yeah, that's just like another new thing to learn in like year 12 of doing this or whatever.
Yeah, because I mean, just now figuring out, the whole thing of taking away the necessity of subscribers, which is so weird to me. I don't understand how that's just the platform controlling what people are allowed to consume, because it takes away their ability to easily find that content, or not easily find it. They can find it, but easily be shown that content. But right, so you have to please your initial core audience so that YouTube will say, all right, your subscribers, some of them clicked on your video. Now we'll show it to more people. And then that's where the thumbnail thing starts to become more challenging, because now you have to have a thumbnail that's going to appeal to a larger audience that is outside of your core subscriber base without going too far that it scares off your initial subscriber base. I don't know, this might be too specific of a topic.
No, I mean, I like that. I mean, I don't care if people find this boring because I like this topic. I actually have had this conversation about, because Netflix does this. Netflix has dynamic thumbnails. If you really like, RoboCop, then it will recommend, another action-y movie, The Quick and the Dead or something with a different thumbnail than if you like Sleepless in Seattle and it wants to recommend you The Quick and the Dead.
Oh,
they're going to show you different thumbnails depending on who the viewer is.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so, that's interesting. I didn't think about that.
I have proposed this to YouTube, and I was basically laughed at because for understandable reasons, because it's a volume game. Essentially, Netflix only has I don't know how many titles they have in their library. Say it's 5,000. I don't know. Let's just say it's 5,000. Okay. Total things you can watch on Netflix. Let's say it's 20,000.
Okay. 20,000.
20,000 things you can watch on Netflix. That's 20,000 titles that algorithm has to keep track of and change thumbnails for. YouTube has like a gabillion hours every second uploaded to it. So the volume is completely absurd. It's astronomical, the amount of content that the YouTube algorithm has to figure out what to do with compared to something like Netflix. So, you know, it's kind of like a pie in the sky idea, but I don't know if it'll ever happen because of the volume.
Yeah, this whole thing with algorithms in general, I don't. It seems like things were working just fine. What was the thing that created the necessity to change like everyone seems to be kind of frustrated with the algorithm, and people tell me all the time, like, oh, you just need to play into the algorithm. What does that mean? I try, you know, if you try to upload once every week, or does that mean putting out more shorts? Does that mean clickbaity, barf-worthy thumbnails? I don't know. It felt like it's probably just an influx of new users and creators, I would imagine, but it seemed like the algorithm was working just fine 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think a lot has changed in the last 5 years. I think there are way more creators on the platform making really great content that people want to watch and want to click on. I think another thing that I'm really interested in that I've been thinking about lately is similarly to how we're sort of like reaching the limits of sort of like shocking must-watch, you got to see this content.
Right.
I also think that people, like a lot of people, have figured out clickbait to the point that it's not just like a handful of creators who do clickbait really well, and then there's like a whole bunch of other creators who have their niche like content that also does really well. I think that there's like a huge, like a deep well of content creators and businesses and people all over the world, content farms making astounding clickbait, like really, really, really good clickbait. And the videos that they're clickbaiting to are not clickbait in the old sense, in like the bait and switch sense, where you click on the thing, you click on the boobs, and all of a sudden it's just some guy like talking, you know, about golf. Yeah. That was like the old version of clickbait. Now, like the clickbait, meaning like it's just such a like eye-catching, incredible thumbnail with an incredible title that's like has the perfect amount of intrigue and mystery, and you know, you need to know what's going on, coupled with a video that's just good enough to get some watch time. It's just good enough that people will watch it for whatever 45 seconds or, you know, a minute and a half that like the algorithm needs to say like, oh, this is a good video. Like people will watch this, so let's promote it more. I think there's a lot of that that's really sort of absorbing a lot of people's attention.
So, I mean, not to dig at Mr. Beast, but one video that comes to mind was I think they were trying to stop like a sniper rifle bullet with a big row of magnets. And it's like, all right, who wouldn't watch that? But the whole video, they're just horrifically failing. It's not even coming close. There's no like measurements of how much is it affecting the bullet. They're just shooting a bullet past a bunch of magnets to no effect at all. And so that's enough to keep people watching because you're still waiting for something to happen. But that's amazing clickbait. And so, yeah, I guess it's like you don't have to actually achieve the thing that you're trying to do. You just have to attempt to do something crazy enough. Yeah, the videos are being made only for the title and the thumbnail alone. And I think that's probably not even revelation. That's not even an impressive revelation. But like people think of a title and they go, all right, now I'll make a video because I know people would click on that title. Like I made a glass ball that I could live in the middle of the ocean. So then you just go about trying to do that, and you can fail horribly, or you can just make it a vlog about talking about it, as long as it's entertaining enough, right? So people will just watch. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Whatever the formula is of having people constantly be interested in watching is that formula is growing. With Mr. Beast, I was looking at a TikTok that he put out, and every single word that he says has a subtitle of just that word, like popping out of his mouth. You can clearly hear what he's saying, but something about having the visual stimulation is needed just to have everyone's ultimate attention. So maybe in the future, all right, here's another thing. Sorry to be breaking my train of thought. And I'm going back to TikTok, and why I think it's ruining people's brains is because now you'll be watching a video that would be interesting on its own. Maybe it's two people talking or it's a skit. But then that video is coupled with footage of some video game. So you can be visually stimulated by this video game while listening to the clip and kind of move your eyes back and forth. So now there's completely unrelated, two videos unrelated, simultaneously playing right next to each other. So that if for some reason you feel the urge to swipe to the next thing, it's that is cut in half, because now you can just kind of look at the other video and flip back and forth while staying on the same channel. So I'm wondering if that's going to be the nature of YouTube videos as well, which it kind of already was. But say, for instance, I'm worried that people might click away from a certain portion of my video. So what I do is I add GTA 5 stunt jumps in the lower third, just so they can watch that or something, just keep their ultimate attention. That would be very, very ugly, but I imagine that's what's going to be happening more and more.
Right. Just amplifying the stimulation, becoming just an absolute stimulation dump in order to maximize attention. I mean,
flashing colors, loud noises, I don't know. That can just be, there's so many other ways you can just pile these things on, these elements on to keep people's attention. It's going to fry people's brains. I'm not sure if we're able to process this much as fast as we're being exposed to.
I think we can. I think that but everything else by proxy ends up seeming boring. Is really kind of what the issue becomes with that. You know, what another trend that's very popular now that I don't think was really at all 5 years ago, which aligns very closely with exactly what you were talking about, is that rather than people just watching your video, they'll watch somebody else watch your video.
Right.
So that they can watch your video, but then also like vicariously hang out with another person watching your video. So it really is two things at once. It's watching your thing and then also seeing the reaction of somebody else watching your thing. So it is, again, it's like that multitask, like ultimate stimulation thing, which sucks for you as the person who spent, thousands of dollars and 3 months on that video, because now...
Yeah, Critical just watched the entire thing with 2 minutes of commentary at the end. It's an hour-long video. He got all the watch time, millions more views than the original video. And why would people not want to watch Critical watching the video? Because everyone likes Critical, and if the video is good enough for Critical to watch, then that is the superior video all of a sudden.
It's a better version of your thing.
Yeah.
And now they don't have to watch your thing because they watched somebody else's reaction to your thing.
Okay. All right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make my video and I'm going to post it on my main channel. And then I'm going to film myself watching the video and reacting to my own video, I guess like director's commentary, and then post that on the second one. Or, no, that wouldn't work, because then that would be more like director's commentary. There wouldn't be enough variation for people's attention.
Yeah, because they need their friend. Like,
yeah.
Charlie is their friend. So they want to watch Charlie's reaction to your thing. They don't want to watch your reaction to your thing.
Yeah, I'm not their friend.
Right.
Maybe I can get like Emperor Lemon or something if I can pay him to watch the video and critique it. Having is that a way of that people collab with each other? Do they just say, hey, can you film yourself reacting to my video and then I'll post it on my channel, and then vice versa?
Yeah,
that might be something new.
It's almost like a headline stand-up comedian bringing along an opener or a band bringing along like, hey, we're Tool, we're a gigantic band, we're going to bring along, this smaller band, Archspire or whatever, to give them some exposure. It's almost the same principle.
We want to help you make something and mean something. And we say that phrase all the time because when you're making something and you know it means something, even if it's just to you, that's when you feel pretty good about what you're creating. The support for the Create Unknown in recent weeks has been incredible. Animators, artists, musicians, YouTubers, aspiring filmmakers, comedians, it is crazy how talented everybody in this community is. Consider joining the Create Unknown Patreon. Every dollar that comes through goes straight into the podcast and its community. That means more highlights videos. It means a big Minecraft project that's on the way. And eventually we'd like to manufacture custom piss bottles so you never have to leave your battle station. And being a patron unlocks participation in all of our live recordings. You've seen the roster of guests we've had. Having access to their minds is a unique opportunity. You can go to patreon.com/thecreateunknown or click the link that's in the description. Every little bit helps and your support means absolutely everything to us. Patreon.com/thecreateunknown, links in the description. We appreciate you, Space Cowboys.
There was one thing I forgot to say earlier, so, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, but when we were talking about audiences sort of getting bored with things because they've already seen it, I have such a funny, different example of that occurring. So that has nothing to do with YouTube. And I want to give this analogy or this example because I think sometimes when you just talk about something hyper-specific like YouTube, people don't really grasp it if they're not in the weeds like you and I are making YouTube content. So here's like everyone will get this analogy. Okay. So back in the day on Vsauce, there was a show called Loot. And the purpose of Loot was just to find wacky gifts and like items that you could buy on the internet. That was the show. It was just a sort of collection of, hey, you could buy, these eyeglasses shaped like a carrot, or you could buy this like coffee mug that looks like Bigfoot's foot.
Right,
that was the whole show. And I remember distinctly the beginning of that show. It was such a novel thing to have like Mario Brothers socks. That was new. It was like, holy crap, you could get Mario Brothers socks? That is the craziest thing I have ever heard. I am totally buying Mario Brothers socks right now. I need those. I love Mario Brothers. I want everybody to know it. I need socks. $7, I'm in. That was like such a cool thing. Okay, you could get Mario Brothers socks at like Walmart now. There's nothing interesting at all about almost any like pop culture socks, like Rick and Morty socks. Really? Like that's interesting? That's really boring. I've had, there are like 1,000 different variations of Rick and Morty socks, and you can get them at Hot Topic and Spencer's. But in 2011, 2012, seriously, the idea of like cartoons on your socks was crazy and really fun and exciting and new. And like you could put that in a video and people would be like, wow.
Yeah, you would find that and say, oh, holy shit, I have to make a video about me, finding this and purchasing it. And then the follow-up video is you getting them in the mail and wearing them. So that's kind of going back to what we were saying about how that seems just really lame now, but is what we're doing now going to seem very, very lame in 5 more years because of how fast everything's moving and how exposed to everything everyone is. So no one's really as curious about any one thing because they've seen some form of it pop up in front of their faces. Like everyone knows about the Marianas Trench now, or even physics. I feel like the idea of time dilation probably doesn't really blow as many minds as it would have 5 years ago, which that's good. Is like people are getting exposed to actual good things that make them smarter. But yeah, there's definitely going to be a wall that's going to be hit where no one's interested. I saw this one person doing an analysis that was like theorizing what the generation of 2030 would be like. And they were speculating that perhaps people would return to nature, I suppose, and just be like you have to leave the internet because there's nothing new to be found or done here. And I need to think on that more. I need to sit in my tent and do acid and just think about that. try to come to some sort of conclusion.
I mean, it does seem to me, at least, that has already happened to some extent. I mean, I kind of have talked about this a little bit, and maybe it's just because Twitter itself is like a dying platform.
Mm-hmm.
But man, does Twitter seem like a dying platform? And I don't think it's for any other reason other than sort of what you're describing, is that people are over it. They're like bored. They're like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I've seen enough of Kevin's stupid jokes, and I've seen like enough of the type of things that this person tweets, and you know, whatever. Like, I'm bored with this. I'm just bored with it, and I'm over it. And so with all of this stuff, the question becomes, well, why isn't, if people are aging out or getting bored, why isn't there like a new generation aging in who are excited by these things?
Well,
and
surely there are, or is there not?
I think that there are. I think that they're on TikTok. I think they're on other platforms. I think that the platforms that we're on are boomer platforms now. They're like for old people, and kids today use TikTok and they love it because it's a million times more entertaining than Twitter. What am I going to do? I'm going to read a funny sentence? Are you joking? That sounds like the most lame boomer thing in the world, when I could just open up TikTok and see, you know, like 58 incredible things, you know, in the next half an hour.
Right.
So how could you compete with that?
Yeah, I don't know. That is true. Yeah, all the news that you might want to get, you can just get a gist, like a quick 30-second clip of someone talking about it in your TikTok feed if you're interested. There is no reason to be on Twitter except for, I guess the actual communicating from person to person is a little bit easier to follow than on TikTok. But from a content absorbing angle, it really is just kind of falling apart there. Yeah, everyone's on TikTok, and TikTok is owned by a company owned by China, and their payout system is really weird. It's kind of sketchy. The whole thing with like how you get paid on TikTok is very odd because it doesn't pay a lot. You're just competing out of a fund. So it doesn't seem viable for someone who has already established themselves on YouTube to try to shift over to TikTok, except for the ability to use it like a billboard and get your name out there. But even then, if people are only staying on TikTok, if that's the ultimate platform, then they're going to have the ultimate control in the end.
Yeah. So this slides into my next big topic. I'm hitting all the big ones with you, Rusty. I hope that you're okay with that, but I've been looking forward to having this conversation.
Oh, I'm hoping I'm being coherent. Sometimes I get stuck in my own head and I don't even know if I'm formulating, sentences that make sense.
No, not only do they make sense, but they're like perfectly aligned with a lot of the things that I wanted to talk to you about.
All right, good.
Because here's a bigger question, another big conceptual question. That's something that I've been thinking about a lot for the last year, and it has to do with what you're talking about with TikTok. So, for people listening who are unfamiliar with like making a career on TikTok, it's like not really a thing. The monetization is horrendous. Hank Green did a very good video actually chastising TikTok for, not paying the people who make the platform work. Mm-hmm. Hardly anything. It's literally like, so for people to better, like get a better understanding, on YouTube, you can get, $6, $7, let's just say $7 per 1,000 monetized views on a video. Okay. TikTok is like 2 cents.
Yeah, it's really low.
So it's not like a factor of like, oh, it's like, half as good as YouTube, or it's like a 10th as good as YouTube. It's like completely horrendous compared to YouTube, where like, most of the people listening to this podcast probably have a lot of famous YouTubers whose job it is to make YouTube content because they can pay their rent making YouTube content. You would have to get an absolutely bonkers amount of TikTok views in order to pay your rent, like almost regardless of where you live, because it takes a long time for those 2 cents to add up. So that's like part one of my statement here. Part two. So part one is, it seems today, and maybe things will change in the future, and all of a sudden, the payouts are great. and people can make a career on it. But that hasn't happened. So we're going to go with what today it is like. It seems today to be pretty much not feasible to be a TikTok creator as like a full-time job. I don't see how that's possible unless someone is getting so many views that they get sponsorship deals that pay really, really well.
Right. That's the only thing. Yeah, you'd have to be product placement, or and you do see TikTokers or people on TikTok kind of promoting a product every once in a while. So they have to pay really well, I would imagine, because for sure I have millions of views on TikTok, and I think maybe total I may have made around $200. So it's like that from the advertisement revenue is definitely, yeah, doesn't exist.
No, and I would say that I'm pretty dubious of actually the brand deal market on TikTok, because the conversions must be terrible for the same reasons you were just saying, that TikTok is like literally designed to make sure that you don't leave TikTok.
Oh,
and
right.
You can't just like put links in a TikTok to send people to Dollar Shave Club. You can't do that. So not only is the payout from like the AdSense side of TikTok nothing, I also am really dubious that the brand deal side is all that good anyway, just because of like, throwing my marketing brain on. I don't see how conversions can be good. And at the end of the day, if you're a company, you have to go with your conversions and, your ROI, your return on investment on the advertising. So if it's like financially a joke to make a career on TikTok, and it's also like the way that the algorithm and the platform are designed, it seems really hard to become like a long-term fan of somebody, because they could just drop out of your algorithm and you would forget that they ever even existed.
Dude, that happens so often. That happens like people that I would see, the algorithm would be pushing that. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be seeing this person for years because, they're obviously getting a lot of views, and then they just completely disappear. And I don't remember their names. I don't really care to look them up. There's a new person that filled their shoes. So yeah, like you just have to keep making different types of content that attracts people's attention in a new way. Because if you do the same thing, I feel like, yeah, the TikTok algorithm will eventually just hide you, I guess. They'll just end your career instantly after they're done absorbing your millions and millions of views that they have ads on.
Yeah, and you got nothing for. So here are my bullet points that I just wrote down. So step 1, no money. Step 2, no audience. So the question is, what's step 3? And that is, who's left, basically? Who's making the content that is keeping kids enraptured on the platform?
There's another element. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What did I miss?
I think the other element is that people like they just like the attention. They like doing something that other people see, and it feels good to be popular or known and have some sort of internet clout. And that's that's what really drives people, I think, or most people, into making content online in the first place, is just being popular or being seen by a lot of people and showing that you have like some sort of physical say in the world and can influence people, rather than everyone going into it with a pure business perspective. Like some 13-year-old, the average 13-year-old, I would think, who's on TikTok, who wants to make TikToks, probably isn't saying, all right, how do I, create a business model around this that can be financially viable and self-sustaining? They're saying, like, I want to make a TikTok that a lot of people are going to see, and then I'll feel really cool. That's my theory. So that's my theory of why I think people will continuously try to continuously be flushing into something like TikTok, while everyone who's been on there a while are just going to be phased out.
Yeah. So you just exactly filled in my number 3.
Oh, okay.
Because I just wrote down this phrase. I just made it up. Let's just call it fame chase. So we'll say, okay, so if there's no money and there's no audience building, all that's left is fame chase. Okay. So what does that mean? It means, you already outlined what it means. It means that you get a whole ton of people looking for their viral moment. And if you have enough people looking for their viral moment, you will create a lot of viral moments.
Right.
There will be a lot of crazy videos of somebody falling down and like this guy getting into a fight, and then some lady burped at a really funny time. It's like America's Funniest Videos on crack.
Yeah.
And that's enough for TikTok to continue to be extremely addicting and popular.
Forever.
So you can cross off people making money. You can cross off people building an audience, and TikTok doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
What does it matter to them? Why are they incentivized in any capacity to please me, you, or Hank Green?
Right. What they have zero creator support. It doesn't matter if I get unjustly striked on some videos and my channel gets taken down. I'm inconsequential to their success as every individual user. They've created a perfect machine that people want to give free content to, and they can make a shit ton of money off. And it moves so quickly that by the time the trends are already used up or everything's been talked about, they just kind of start back over again. I'm seeing stuff that's getting popular now it was already popular 5 years ago. So, people just started to reconsume the content again, and there's a younger audience. There's a new audience who is now able to consume the content that was kind of beaten to the ground a few years back. And so it's perpetuating. It could perpetuate forever until something major happens that either we start seeing some weird effects on people's brains and their behaviors due to it, that everyone starts banning the app. Like, I know that China's limited their use. They have like their own TikTok, and they've limited use to it because it's probably destroying people's productivity. But it's a perfect animal, I think, that could live for potentially forever.
Yeah, I don't see how it changes. And Linus in the chat mentioned that the situation we just outlined exists to some extent with YouTube, and that's absolutely true. It does exist to some extent with YouTube. I could say that a difference is that YouTube is really beholden to its advertisers. So, Google at large is beholden to advertisers. Mm-hmm. The billions and billions of dollars that they rake in comes from ad money through Google ads and through selling them on YouTube, whatever. That's where they're making their money. So YouTube actually does have an incentive to have content on their platform that they're proud to show off to advertisers. So to give you an example of this, they have a conference. It's really more of an event, but they have a thing. We'll just call it a thing. They have a thing every year called Brandcast.
Okay.
And Brandcast is this like elbow rubbing sort of thing where they gather all big wigs from Fortune 500 companies, and it's like it's a showcase for YouTube to say how great and important and impactful and special YouTube is a place to advertise. That's
right.
The point of it. So they'll put on like this big show that talks about like the great numbers of YouTube, and then they'll bring out a bunch of YouTubers who are very family friendly and wholesome, and they'll talk about how great it is to be on YouTube and like the lives that they're changing, and then they'll literally bring out like Katy Perry to do a song because they just want to schmooze the execs from like Heineken and Johnson & Johnson and Toyota to, slice off some of their gabillion-dollar marketing budget every year and allocate it to YouTube. Does TikTok do this?
They don't have to.
Don't think so. I don't see why they would, why they care.
Because they're the largest website. They're the biggest platform in the world. They don't need to do anything like that. So all right. So here's something I don't like about now everyone's trying to copy that format. They see what works, and so they're saying, all right, vertical videos, scrolling, that's what we all need. And that's going to kind of water down the platforms, because with YouTube, I feel like there's a lot of frustration with shorts. I mean, we all have to kind of make them, and they don't pay out either. Like YouTube shorts really don't pay much of anything.
No.
And it's like, why are there shorts on the website? I personally go to YouTube, and this could be just because I'm old and thinking of the internet like I did 8 years ago. But I go to YouTube so I can see long form or like more long form videos, more in-depth things. and I can actually specifically search for what I want. That's something TikTok doesn't really have. Like their search features is pretty much non-existent. Probably too because it's not necessary. Because people are so easily entertained by jingling keys in front of their eyes and then switching the keys out for a banana, and then they go, whoa, a banana, all right, what's next? So it seems weird when YouTube starts trying to incorporate that type of feature, because it seems like it starts to fight against what their strong features already are and dilute the water. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they're scared. They're scared. This is the first time that I've seen YouTube actually like, we're losing market share.
Right.
And we need to do something about that. But it's not just YouTube. Instagram is now just like another TikTok.
Oh yeah, Instagram is miserable.
It's just all the same thing. And I don't have a prediction for that. I don't understand where that's going. I just know that TikTok cracked, like what we were saying earlier, the ultimate way to suck people in.
Right.
I heard this is actually pretty interesting. So maybe there will come a point where people turn on that style of entertainment. But I have read comments and I've talked to some people who say they feel bad about themselves after getting sucked into TikTok for like 25 minutes. There's like a oh my gosh, I'm going to say this because I don't know how else to say it, but there's like a post-nut clarity to TikTok.
Yeah, you go, I just spent an hour sitting on the couch, hunched over on TikTok. What the fuck am I doing? I've had friends who've deleted the app because of that. I was just watching way too much stuff and I wasn't getting anything done. So that would make sense then. That would be the thing that could deter people, is essentially everyone's developing a gambling addiction, like just with the quick serotonin release. And so they're going to be fried from all that serotonin release and they're going to be addicted just to scrolling, and they're going to have to say, all right, I really have to stop this. How long will that take though, I wonder, before culturally people are just burned out from constantly here's another question. You think something like this has ever happened before? Maybe with the invention of television or something, where people were so addicted to some sort of consuming of media that it really had a kind of a negative cultural effect, and then they turned away from it. And I don't know.
I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Obviously there was a lot of pushback to like TV being a thing that people just sat in front of all day.
Right.
They would say it rots your brain. The TV rots your brain. Don't become a couch potato.
Right.
That sort of negative connotation to it, but people didn't turn against it. It's not like, I think if anything, they embraced it more. And, when I was a kid, there was this is one of those boomer lines, but when I was a kid, there was one TV in the house. It was the TV. And, it wasn't until I got older where it was like, wow, like I get my own TV in my room. And it was like a black and white 13-inch tiny TV that had one of the dials on it, and it could only get, I think, 13 channels. Anyway, this is the late 80s. Mm-hmm. But if anything, now there's just TVs everywhere. They're like TVs barking at you at the supermarket, like running advertisements. There's, the only sort of thing I could think of that was like this is like, we added TVs to plane seats and then got rid of those because everybody just brought their own phone or tablet to watch. That was kind of a weird progression.
Okay, so in the future, when they figure out how to remove the elements or remove the space between our phones and our brains, because really, if TikTok's just doing one thing, it's just stimulating curiosity and whatever other attention-grabbing things. They could do that probably just by firing off neurons directly into our head. So then we would just be kind of zombie-esque things that we don't even need to look at anything. Well, I guess we'd still have to be creating it. I don't know. I'm trying to think what the future is going to be like. Granted, this oncoming food shortage doesn't just drop everyone into horrific despair and it doesn't become viable to be on TikTok. I don't know. I think this is the beginning of the end, personally. I'm kind of a doom and gloomer. I've been becoming more doom and gloom recently. And it seems like everything's kind of racing towards a destruction point very, very quickly. And so, like, I in a little ways, when I think of all the problems of like TikTok and YouTube, I feel like it's not going to really matter that much because there's going to be bigger pressing issues that kind of slow down that destructive path. And mainly, I think worldwide
it'll just
starvation.
be a frivolous thing to even worry about.
Right, exactly. And maybe that's a good thing. It's like a huge wrench in the gear of the death machine that we're creating with Silicon Valley and all these apps. We might need a real world catastrophe and a real natural IRL event that we need to address in order to survive. I don't really know where I'm going with this.
No, I just can't help but think of this is going to be my second Tool reference for some reason, but the song Enema by Tool, which is about wiping out Los Angeles with a natural disaster.
Oh, okay.
Basically just like flooding Los Angeles, getting rid of everything, getting rid of all the BS that's there. Giving it an enema, flushing it out.
Right.
Everybody gets flushed out to sea and they, wind up in Arizona. But yeah, that's kind of
I kind of
an
feel
old
like
song at this point, but
I'm gonna have to check that out. I've not listened to enough Tool, but I remember people talking about that song. I'll have to listen after this. Enema, I'm writing it down. It could be a good idea, though. I mean, it's probably going to happen naturally. It doesn't necessarily have to be a man-made catastrophe, even though it most certainly will be man-made, but perhaps not orchestrated, that will kind of correct the path we're on. Because no one seems to know where we're going as a culture, as like the human race, and how we're consuming media and whether it's good or bad. Is it going to be destructive? Is it just going to turn us into the next evolution of humans, which is quite possible. But I feel like there's going to be a major correction before we get to the next positive step where we're in control and we know kind of where we're trying to lead civilization. And
yeah, I certainly think that there's something to, well, look, there are like solid studies based upon like rises in anxiety and depression correlating with specific like launches of social media. So there's like no question whatsoever. It's not like, oh, gee, I wonder if this is having an effect. No, it is definitely having a negative effect on people's mental health. And, there's this whole go touch some grass sort of meme that gets thrown around, that it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's funny, it's a meme, it's a joke, but it's also like there's a kernel of truth in that.
No, it's like seriously, go touch grass and see what you feel like.
like really go outside, like really get off your phone, get off. And it's certainly ironic, to say the least, to be having this discussion over a podcast that's distributed online. But, if we were just having it in at a bar or something, very few people would have access to it. But Matt and I have talked about this a lot, especially this summer. I don't know, there was something that sort of changed for both of us this summer, and it's really, really more so for Matt even than for myself, where he just, at a certain point each day, he just gets out of the house. He's just like, I'm done. I'm going outside and I'm doing stuff. And, he lives in such an area in which there's plenty of like projects and things to work on and land and stuff like that. It's not quite as easy to say to somebody in like Brooklyn, hey, like just go outside and, pass the time. It's like that could be dangerous. Like you could get yourself in trouble. Like it could make things worse in some regard. I lived in Brooklyn, and sometimes you feel like I have to stay in my apartment. Like I don't even know where I would go. But if you have the opportunity, I do think people should make a more conscious effort than perhaps they're currently making to say, like, you know what, enough with the video games, enough with the internet, enough with refreshing Twitter and TikTok and YouTube, and this Netflix show can wait. I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna take a walk. I'm gonna do something in the yard. I don't know, anything.
Well, yeah, because we're animals that have kind of relied on this for our happiness, just having sunlight and actually touching. It's like when you see the cows who are kept in the barn for the winter And so several months at a time, they're just kept in these barns. And when they finally open the barn doors in the spring and the cows see all the grass, they're just rolling around in grass. They love just the sensation of actual nature. And I think, yeah, we definitely forgot that, but it probably would greatly improve people's happiness. The only problem is if you go outside for 30 minutes and touch grass, you just missed out on all the trends that are happening. And now you can't comment on it because you're not in the loop, and you can't, make your videos and TikToks about it. And since that's essentially where everyone's wealth is coming from, or it seems like a lot more people are having careers online, you kind of have to rely on being up to date with all the platform changes and how to manipulate them and how to get people's attention. Like, I feel like I took a break off just to work on the comic book, and when I came back, I'd almost forgotten how to make videos anymore. And with this series, I really wanted to work in just an aspect where I actually have to be outside and working on something, because that's the most rewarding thing is, building something with your own hands and just not staring at a screen all day. I'm in my studio right now, and I really hate coming in here anymore. It's just, I'm surrounded by screens and microphones and keyboards, and it doesn't feel natural. It just feels very caged, a rusty cage.
All right. Well, did you feel better while you were working on the comic book? Was that an activity that made you feel more fulfilled or like less, adhered to screens?
Oh, definitely. First, because it's kind of a dying art, and there's not really a shitload of competition with comic books. So I feel like I can still make something and take my time on it and create. Well, when I was working on the comic book, I was also using an iPad. But it felt different because you're drawing, and every time you get a panel done, you feel good. Every time you get a page done, you feel good. Once you print out everything and you get the actual physical comic book, it's just rewarding. But then what do you do with it? How do you sell it unless you have the audience to sell it to? And they're not going to wait around forever. It's like the TikTok effect, where people are going to forget about you much quicker than as time goes on, quicker and quicker as time goes on. So you have to constantly be reminding people that you even exist in order to try to get them to read a comic book, because it might take a year to do. And they're going to say, what was Rusty doing? Oh, I think he just died, or he left the internet. And now I'm preoccupied with these other creators. So it's a constant competition that seems so overwhelming. So the things that personally that I find to be enjoyable are not necessarily self-sustainable, because I can't for sure make a living off them without advertising them to people. And, if you go off YouTube just for a little bit and come back, you're not going to be as favored in the algorithm, and you have to kind of start all over again. So it's like all these platforms are just making, we already said this, it's just making a situation where you can never leave, and you have to do what you already do. If you make this type of content, you have to continue making this type of content, and you can never leave. And and if you do, then it's on to the next person. You had your shot. Good luck trying to start over again. And I think it's going to be weird in the future. I've heard this. I'm not sure if this is true, but people who get permanently banned off YouTube, for instance, they try to make a new account, and I've heard people saying like their facial recognition or voice recognition is so good that they can find you even if you start a whole new account, even if you wear a mask or something, they can find you and still ban that new account. What that would mean, I would think, is in some sort of future scenario where you actually only do have 15 minutes of fame, that's all you're allocated, you can't really start over. I don't know why they would do this, but I can see the potential for them having that as an incredible thing of control over people. I don't know how that ties into any points, but
I don't know. It's just frightening.
Yeah, I don't know. This is
dystopian.
Everything. This is where my brain's just been in the past few months. It's like everything is frightening and evil and malicious. But yeah, I don't know. I think that a lot of these tech companies are very malicious, and I think that they're actually forming into crazier and crazier things, especially when there's a separation between the people who create these platforms and talk amongst themselves and have their own sets of values and goals that they're trying to reach. And how can we do this? How can we get people to think this way or to vote this way or to do something like that? If that's power that they can gain, why would they ever give that up? And then it's going to be like politics in general, how, politicians of either party just kind of lie to you to get you to continuously vote for them. But the Silicon Valley has that power, and they have the ability to do it way better than any government system does. So what are they going to do with it? If they're really disconnected from the humanity that we're experiencing, they could be leading us in very, very scary directions that I don't know. I don't know where that would lead us. But I know there's like a big thing of everyone talking about, the big tech giants and how they're all like some weird cult. And maybe I'm just kind of following down that wormhole, but it seems like that's what's happening. To what degree, I don't know, because also I've never really worked on the inside of any of these companies.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've never, sniffed the highest ranks of those companies, but I have interacted with a lot of people on the lower ranks ish of them. And one thing I will say about that I don't maybe make you feel better is that they move around all the time.
Okay.
So like in one way, I would think that if it was this cult that, that people would want to stay in and like never leave, that's sort of like one of the main tenets, I think, of a cult is like you can't leave.
Right.
And the people in these tech jobs leave constantly, all the time. I swear it seemed rare in my experience for any of them to stay more than 3 years. It almost seems like they do their 3 years, like they check their watch and they get a job someplace else, whether it's a startup or, like an emerging tech company that's new. Or they just leave that sector entirely because of whatever reason they find it unfulfilling, and they're like, I'm going to do something with my life that has more meaning in it. So,
but the
I don't
animal,
know if that helps at all.
Well, that's the individual. That's on an individual level, but the animal that they're creating, the ant pile or the ant colony that they're creating still remains, and that still pulls people in, and that still operates on a set of values that allow its success. So if maybe a CEO switches from working at Netflix and moves to LinkedIn, it doesn't really change what Netflix is trying to do. And I guess when I say cult, it's maybe not on an individual level, but the thing itself, I feel like these are entities that are being created that are like, this is the beginning of some sort of AI takeover. Like, we don't really know what TikTok is, but it's like the algorithm itself is more powerful than the people. And it's leading us to make changes. It's leading the engineers to make changes to it in order to compete with other algorithms. I don't know. I'm probably going off the deep end here. I'm not really sure. I haven't thought about it enough to get clarity, I suppose.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying.
People are going to think I'm a loon.
I do think that the leadership seems to stay in place.
Okay.
I haven't seen a whole lot, or at least a lot more than 3 years. It seems like the leadership sticks around longer than that, and in some cases, I think it seems like they'll stick around until they retire,
right?
Whenever that is. So you're right. Maybe it's
okay. Here's
the doozers that swap out all the time.
Here's the clarity, I guess. How I'll try to, something that I do believe has already happened like this would be what we would call the deep state, or central intelligence, a department or a system of people who, no matter who the administration is, they still have a set amount of goals that they have to maintain, and they have to pass down to their new leaders in order to guarantee not only the success of whatever the state they're operating. Like, the central intelligence in America, it's like the whole need to know basis of a president. The president doesn't really get all the knowledge that central intelligence has because it's not really necessary for them to know all that. But it is necessary for central intelligence to keep being able to exist and collecting information. So it's kind of operating as its own entity outside of the United States. And so they're very, very powerful. They can do things. They can overthrow governments. They can overthrow our government. So that same type of system happening in Silicon Valley, maybe not Silicon Valley, but companies at Silicon Valley, they'll gain that same type of power and follow the same type of rituals. How do you guarantee people's secrecy in the CIA? Will anyone ever know unless you're in the CIA? All right, I lost my clarity again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, certainly we've seen some weird stuff get memory hold. by social media platforms. And
oh shit, here's something. You know Castaway.
Okay.
You've seen Castaway. Now,
Yeah.
do you think this is a big deal or not? Wait, did you say you did see it?
the film with Tom Hanks. Yeah.
So there was a scene in it. I just watched it recently on Netflix, and there was a whole scene that they deleted from the movie, and it was a pretty big scene. I remember it because it'd been years since I'd seen the movie, and I said, that's weird. I could have swore this happened. It was a scene where he went to the top of the mountain, maybe about 2 weeks into living on the island. I forget how long time had passed, but he was depressed. He thought he was going to be there for the rest of his life and never see his family again. So he makes a rope and he gets a log kind of shaped like a human, and he ties one end around the log and one end around this branch that's hanging over this cliff edge. And, you know, he's making his unalive device. And then he throws the log off and it snaps the branch. So it kills his plans of taking himself out. And I remember that was a really powerful section in the movie of like the progress from him first getting to the island to being like a master Robinson Crusoe, master of the island. And when I watched it recently, they just completely removed that scene. And they even referenced it later in the movie where they need more rope. And Wilson's like, I guess, telling him, well, Wilson's not telling him anything, but he's like, I know where there's more rope. I know there's more rope up there, and I don't want to go back up there. But eventually he has to go back to the mountain and collect that broken noose so he can build the ship to get off the island. Now, I was trying to think, is this a big deal that they just completely removed the scene? Is it just that scene was too vile and Netflix says, okay, we don't really like that type of content in movies, so just completely remove it? Should there be any rules or anything that kind of guarantees that literature remains what it was when it was put out, kind of like a Library of Congress, or is there dangers to retroactively going in and changing the media?
So sorry, I just wanted to know more about this, and I Googled it, and it seems like that was cut out long before Netflix.
Okay.
That scene. It looks like HBO edited it out. And I can't really find more information about it right now, but that does seem...
Yeah, I haven't really looked in.
Really weird.
I just noticed it, but I didn't actually look into it. So everything I'm saying is kind of speculation, but I'm going to try to find the DVD so I can at least prove that it existed. Because there's a lot of things... I mean, it did
exist. I'm on another like 10 behind the scenes facts about Castaway. And that's one of the facts, is that scene did exist.
Now, if someone really wanted to, if they had enough power to, they could go and take down all these websites talking about this and remove, have it removed from Google's search engine so you can't even search that this existed, and then it'll just die with the people who remembered it, probably questioning if it actually happened or not.
This article is saying that it is like a Mandela effect, that it never existed.
God, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way, because how would I have created this? I guess it's possible. I don't think so. I'm going to get the DVD and I'm going to prove this. I don't think this is a Mandela effect, because it was like there's things that I guess I'd be making up. All right, let me go back. From the context of the later scene in the movie, it is possible that I could have created this scene in my head, and that would be very, very good writing. But there's some elements to the scene that I created in my head that I could not get from the context of the later scene. So that would have been completely made up. Is there anyone that can prove that Mandela effect?
I don't know, man. I'm reading like a whole thread right now as we speak, and a lot of people are saying it didn't, that scene didn't exist.
Oh my, this is not what I needed right now.
No, it's going to create an even worse, existential crisis.
I know, now I'm confused. Like, I don't even understand reality. I'm buying this DVD. I'm going to get the oldest copy I can off. If they have it on VHS, I'm getting that, and I'm going to...
And then you need to make a video about it.
I'm going to solve this, yeah. I will solve this, at least for my own sanity.
Yeah. Linus in the chat says that he saw it as well.
Okay.
He saw it he says he saw it in the theater.
Yeah, I did see this in theaters, so it is possible that it was never actually released on anything, but I did see Castaway in theaters.
Okay, maybe it was just a theatrical release.
Oh, that is upsetting. Well, there goes all my points about, rewriting history and...
Okay, somebody did say, I saw the original movie in the theater and it did have that scene.
Okay. All right, so maybe
they just deleted it once it came out on video. I mean, there was an episode of... So I just watched Severance, which is a show on Apple TV, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's the best show I've seen in recent memory. But they had trigger warnings at the beginning of a couple episodes that kind of spoiled things. And like, no. This is maybe to some people sounds like a big boo-hoo. Like, well, it's better to spoil the thing to alert people of potentially, a triggering traumatic moment. But not to me.
Yeah.
Like, not to me. Like, you just spoiled what's kind of a big deal that's about to happen in this episode. Like, okay, now I'm waiting for the thing that you told me is going to happen, and that kind of sucks.
Unforeseen consequences. Well, whenever this great catastrophe does happen in the world, a lot of this stuff that we complain over, these small problems of even having to have a trigger warning or then having to have the trigger warning spoil the show, it'll all just become nonsense.
Yeah.
No one will remember that it ever existed until things get back to a stable place and then they slowly start reintroducing the same old concepts. Severance. All right, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, it's on Apple, so you have to get that. I just did the free trial in order to watch it because Zach for Psychic Pebbles recommended it, and I'm like, all right, well, if he liked it, I will watch it.
Hell yeah.
So I did, and I thought it was incredible. Like, it's exactly the type of show that I like.
Here's another show.
Which is rare.
There was a TV show that came out in 2006 that they really did try to scrub from the internet. I remember for the longest time I couldn't find any information about it, but now I'm seeing a lot more people slowly talk about it. I thought I was going to be the first one to break it, but someone already made a video on it. It's a show called Black White. I don't know if you've heard of this. It was produced by FX, and Ice Cube is actually one of the producers on the show. And it only had 6 episodes, but what it was there was a family, father, mother, and daughter. They were a white family, and then there was a black family. And what they would do is they would trade races. So they would make the white family look like black people, and black people look like white people. And it was very bizarre. And then they go out into the world and they experience what it's like to be the other race. I got the DVD and I got it ripped, and it's ridiculous. It was probably great TV for 2006, but obviously, for obvious reasons, they completely try to get the show like annihilated from the internet.
Jeez, it's wife swap.
Yeah,
it's during they're like, okay, well, we'll do wife swap, but it will be with race swap. Wow, what could go wrong?
Yeah, I still might make a video on it on YouTube. I was thinking, what if someone tries to copyright claim it? Who would do that? Which company would be like, yeah, that's ours. We made that.
We take ownership of that atrocity.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you should make that video.
Yeah. No, so go ahead.
Charles uploaded the, sorry for people who are just listening on audio. We're in the episode chat.
Okay. So this is the second scene.
This is not the scene that you're talking about.
Yeah. This is the later one.
This is him retrieving the rope.
Right.
Sorry, Charles. This is not the scene, my friend. This is the second scene. So we still are missing the first scene, the attempt. This is the recovery of the rope, not the attempt. So we do have a couple of questions from our patrons that I'd love to ask.
Awesome.
If you're cool with that. Here's a fun one, harkening back to the beginning of our episode. I don't even know how you answer this. What flavor lemonade will you be selling at your lemonade stand?
Well, okay, this is going to be a not funny answer, but more of a grievance when it comes to soft drinks. I don't like how much sugar is in soft drinks, and so I think the less sugar in this lemonade, the better, but I would like a carbonated lemonade. Flavors, it could be pink lemonade, it could be, you could put other flavors in there, but all right, I have to think of something funny here. I'll name them something like Nancy Pelosi flavor, and that'll be a mix of grapefruit and hibiscus and lemon, of course, with minimum sugar, only less than 10 whatever measurable units of sugar that they use.
Grams. All right, so look out for the Nancy Pelosi bubbly hibiscus lemonade.
The Chuck Schumer lemonade. The Gary, I forget his name. Who was the leader of California? Gary Newsom.
Oh, Gavin Newsom.
That's right.
I thought you were going to say Gary Vaynerchuk. He could have a flavor too.
I don't know who Gary Vaynerchuk is. I'm pretty sure that's made up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Gary V.
Yeah,
oh shit. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. Gary V.
Yeah, he can have one.
Yeah. Okay. W Quiz asks, what's your guilty pleasure in terms of online content? Do you have a guilty pleasure at all?
Yeah, I don't know if I feel guilty about it, but it's like cartel gore videos. Those are
oh my God.
I watch a lot of those. I mainly just watch a lot of gore videos. I guess so I remember to constantly fear death and to avoid things that can easily kill me. Not necessarily cartel videos are the worst because they eject them with adrenaline while they're kind of torturing people, and so they stay alive for a lot longer until what you would think is far beyond the human limits of being able to endure pain. But also mechanical videos like factories where people are working on lathes and they get pulled into a paper.
Oh
yeah, it's not fun, and you really leave those sessions kind of like, oh Jesus Christ, like what did I do it so I can remember to stay away from lathes and to not jump off cliffs into water unless I know how deep it is or if I can even clear the rocks below. So yeah, that's my guilty pleasure.
I will ask, I think, a necessary interjection question here, and that's, do you think that perhaps watching these videos has had any sort of influence on what you've described as kind of like a grim outlook as of late, or no? Is that just a coincidence?
I've been watching these since Rotten.com days, so that okay. I was like 11.
It's not new.
Yeah, but here's what it has done. I don't mess around when I'm walking on sidewalks. I constantly freak accidents are the worst. A car somewhere crashes 3 blocks away and the tire flies and hits someone and just completely annihilates them. I'm looking out for that. I don't know if it's saved my life. I've just never been in any close calls, but it hopefully will not be a surprise when an AC unit falls out of a high-rise building.
I was going to say, like a piano.
Yeah.
You're always constantly looking up for falling
anvils,
pianos.
Yeah, anything like that.
Anything with Acme written on the side.
Yeah, I avoid it.
You're the Wile E. Coyote.
And I have the Sinaloa cartel to thank for that.
Yeah. Rusty Cage, YouTube's Wile E. Coyote. Here's kind of just a technical question from Maple. What software do you use to edit, and how long have you been using it?
I don't know if they're talking about video or music, but video I'm using Final Cut Pro, which I've been using for a while. I've switched between that and Premiere, Adobe Premiere, and I need to switch back to Premiere. There's elements of each one that I like, and also elements that I very, very, very much hate. And so I got to figure out which one is the better choice. But right now I'm using Final Cut. And music-wise, I use Logic Pro, which is also the Apple, Prime music editing software. And I do like Logic.
Oh, okay. All right. So, last one here is from Marco. What little stupid things do you find make you happy or make you laugh?
Oh, I know there's something. I'm trying to remember. It's like every once in a while, it's to see. Wait, what was the question? Make me laugh or make me happy?
Either one. Yeah. What's like a silly little thing that brings you joy, essentially?
Animals who, for seemingly no reason, do acts of kindness to other animals, and then they like just walk away. Like there's the video of the bear. There's the crow that's kind of drowning in this water and it can't get up on the ledge, and a bear just walks by, picks up the crow, sets it down, and walks away. And I just find that very interesting. I guess I smile. There's some other stuff where I will just kind of cackle like an idiot, but I can't remember what it is right now. I do consume wholesome stuff though from time to time.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is the duality.
Yeah.
Of Rusty, and I see this so much. Like if anybody follows Justin Wang's Instagram account and watches his stories, which are its own little thing to get addicted to. Wang posts like 40 stories a day.
I don't know how he does it.
And the seesaw effect from one to another will snap your neck. It'll give you such bad whiplash because of it'll go from something like that, some some like adorable puppy or like otter or penguin, or he does a lot of stuff with like turtles and frogs. Anyway, it'll be like an incredibly cute hedgehog, and then something like that's as vile as he can get away with.
Sure, like,
on Instagram,
right? A guy injects his own fluids into his arm for some reason.
Yeah. A story about like pooping out of a penis. I don't know.
That was one of them, I believe.
So,
yeah.
That's my recommendation of the day: is follow Justin Wang on Instagram and watch his stories.
I said this on Twitter recently, but it does kind of bother me, and I feel like I couldn't elaborate more without losing people's Twitter attention. But there's a lot of videos where humans are saving animals who kind of get stuck in some situation, usually man-made, like a goat that gets its head stuck in a fence, or some like bobcat that gets stuck in a pipe, and they have to dig up all around this area, and they have to go through these great lengths to remove this animal from the situation that obviously it would die otherwise. And then the second the animal gets free, it just like hisses and takes off running. And for some reason that makes me so mad. Like, you ungrateful asshole. Because the animal, from the animal's perspective, it's like, these motherfuckers are trying to kill me. And the second I get a chance, I'm out of here. And so then they do. So they're probably like, I just escaped, being eaten alive by these weird ape creatures. So I don't know why that makes me upset. Because there's other animals like baby elephants or something that fall in a hole, and they use a crane to lift it up out of the hole. The elephant usually seems like it's thankful. Like it'll linger around a little bit, and raise its trunk and then kind of meander off.
Right. So yeah, like grateful rescued animals is something that you appreciate, and ungrateful rescued animals
Disdain.
Really draws your ire.
There's animals I will not rescue because I'm like, what's the point? I'm not going to get any glory out of this.
It will, yeah. It will not thank me. It will just be mean to me anyway. Yeah, it will appreciate none of my graciousness.
Right. I want him to shake my hand at least, and say, you can go off and continue being a possum, or maybe not a possum, something more like a badger. But at least for a moment, just relax on the hissing and don't claw me. And then we'll just say farewell to each other and, return the favor if you ever have the chance.
Yeah. A single nuzzle is all I ask.
That would be great.
And yeah, if I'm like tied up by the mafia at some point, you'll chew through my ropes and free me.
Exactly.
That's the deal. Oh, God. I think that's a great place to end. Rusty, it was a pleasure chatting with you.
I appreciate it.
I really enjoy you as a human being. I'm grateful for you on this planet. If you rescued me from some sort of peril, I would give you a nuzzle, or at least like a pleasant nod as a thanks.
Thank you. That's godly.
I definitely want everyone to make sure that they are following this guillotine saga. Check out Rusty Cage's channel, turn on notifications. It won't be annoying. He's not uploading all the time and like bombarding you with stuff. When something is uploaded, you'll want to know about it and you'll want to watch it. So definitely go ahead and do that. And if you're interested in comic books, then check out Requiem of the Crazies. I personally have every edition. I have an issue of every single kind.
Well, the Create Unknown,
I don't know what your excuse is.
Actually has an advertisement in this last edition.
That's right. Yeah, the Create Unknown is literally in the third issue. So if only for that, just to see that advertisement that I made with my own blood, sweat, and Photoshop, then you should definitely go check that out. Next week will be a solo episode with just Matt and myself. No guest. We will be exploring some more things that have been on my mind lately. The following week, we are happy to announce the return of Many Kudos. It's been a while since we've had, and a lot of subscribers for Kudos since he's been on the show. And then we're finishing out the month strong with Jay Schlatt. So you are not going to want to miss any of that stuff. If you want to support The Create Unknown, please go to Patreon, patreon.com/The Create Unknown. We really appreciate it. And every single dime goes back into making the show and being here every week just for you. That's the end of my spiel. Rusty, thanks again. You're awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, and thank you everyone for listening.
All right. Thanks, patrons. We will see you back here right on Discord next Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. Until then, we will see you, Space Cowboys.
Thanks for listening to The Create Unknown. We make this show with the support of our patrons. 100% of that goes directly to keeping episodes going every week, and the recent support has been amazing. Sidpoke, NRM, Venture Addicts, Weezergood, you all really do make this show happen. Thank you to the Tots and Dumpster crew, old and new, who save tiny little lives every month. Thank you to our grizzled, battle-hardened child infantry. Clemente de los Santos, Dan the Latch, Demetrius Andrews, Erica, Ferrykun, Jen Mefasanti, Kevin Menard, Mikhail Steinke, Monahim, Natsu, Penny Piddler, Ryan Steer, Ryan Kinder, Samuel Manser, Sean S., Sean Malone, and Tom Bidioger. And a tremendous shout out to our elite baby gang commanders: Atrocious Guff, Kat, Dojangles, Graham Robertson, James Gallagher, Jeff Davis, Orange Vanilla Coke, Patrick Pister, TCU's personal pilot, Andy, Ryan Carroll, Baseweight, Vinthos, Yeetus Deletus, Jonas Walter, Nathan Robinson, Jelxies, and of course, Trevstead. You are the elite. Thank you as well to our indentured servants, producer-editor Ben Webster, Minecraft mogul Laterman, Discord kitten wrangler Conrad, and producer emeritus Dan Yosua. Thanks to Baseweight for use of Created in the Unknown for the opening theme. Thanks to Electro Voice for giving us mics to sound good on top of it. And a special thanks to Main Gear for powering all of our PC endeavors. The Create Unknown is an Unknown Media production in partnership with Studio 71.